This is Garden Variety, a horticulture podcast from Iowa Public Radio and Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. I'm Charity Nebbe. Spring blooming bulbs get a lot of attention this time of year, but every blossom that emerges feels like a beautiful little victory. Today, we are going to talk about spring blooming perennials. Cindy Haynes, professor of horticulture at Iowa State University, and Erin Steil, Iowa State University Extension horticulture specialist, are here to share some of their favorites. Hello, Cindy.
Good morning.
And hello, Erin.
Good morning.
And things are getting very exciting out there. There are lots of things popping up and starting to bloom, or they will be blooming in the next week or two or three. Erin, why don't you go first? We're going to talk about spring blooming perennials. So, of course, these are plants that come back year after year.
Yes, and one of them that is looking very nice in my garden right now is lungwort or pulmonaria. It's not a great common name, but it is a very pretty kind of part shade perennial. It usually has kind of a spotted foliage, but right now what is so charming about it are its little pink and blue flowers. And this one, as the flowers age, they tend to go from a pinkish red color to a bluish purple color, which is fun. So you'll have like this two-tone on the plant most of the spring bloom period. And mine right now must be a little ahead of Cindy's because she said all of hers were pink and all of mine are blue. So I must be just a little bit ahead. But it is, the other nice thing about pulmonaria is that it has a very hairy leaf, and so it's less likely to be eaten by rabbits and deer, which is always a nice thing, especially in the shade garden where hosta seems to be the best plant, but is also the favorite of deer and rabbits. So this could be a nice alternative.
All right. And also, as we talk about each of those, each of these plants, I want to talk about what happens with the foliage as they continue throughout the summer. So what happens after the blooms?
So this one's really nice because the foliage is quite ornamental, and a lot of them have silver spots or silver markings on the leaf, and the patterns vary by cultivar, but it is a nice, attractive plant the whole growing season.
All right, Cindy, you're up next.
Oh, excellent. I'm going to talk about hellebores first because those Lenten roses or hellebores have been blooming in my garden for more than 3 weeks. So they started kind of mid-March, right before spring break. And they have these beautiful kind of chartreuse green flowers or these kind of burgundy purple flowers or pink flowers. There's single and there's doubles. And the flower's showy because it's the sepal. It's the outside of the flower, and it lasts for a really long time. So they're small perennials with this really thick leaf with these kind of nodding or outward-facing flowers that end up lasting, at least a month in my garden, and they're kind of oddly colored, which is kind of nice. They, too, like lungwort, like the shade. So we put them in part shade or under some trees. And the clump gets a little bit bigger and bigger over time, so it starts out pretty small, but after it's well established, it's very reliable perennial. And the one thing I really like about it, it does have nice foliage. It's very thick, almost plastic-like foliage. I mean, it's just a little thick, and it's semi-evergreen, so the foliage lasts through most of the summer and even into the fall. And sometimes I have to remove some of that foliage from last year in the spring because it's starting to get a little ratty by over the winter. So it's nice that it has something that's kind of cool. And I guess there's some variegated foliage ones out there too.
Yeah.
Which would be even more brilliant to look at.
Erin, what's next on your list?
So right now, so this one blooms a little bit later in spring. It's blue stars or Amsonia. And there are several native species and many, many cultivars out there of this plant. And what's fun about this one is that the leaves emerge, the stalks emerge, and very quickly they form these cute star-shaped blue flowers on the top. And so that's usually kind of mid-spring when we see those flowers. And then the plant continues to grow after the flowering's finished. and fills out. And some of them, especially the willow leaf blue stars, gets huge with time, almost shrub-like. And so it's really nice for the back of the border. And the other thing that's great about blue stars, apart from its really nice spring flowering, is that it is one of the most reliable fall coloring perennials that we have. So very consistently every year it produces this gorgeous golden yellow fall color.
Yeah, and there's not many perennials that have any fall color.
Yes, yeah. So that makes this one really nice. And I have a cultivar that I just got last year I'm really excited about. It's called Storm Cloud. And what's cool about this one is that the stems are dark purple. And so when it emerges out of the ground, it's almost black in color. And then green leaves form on the stems, but the stems remain purple. So you have this like dark interior with these nice green leaves on the outside. It's such a cool plant.
And very moody.
Yeah.
It's a very moody plant.
And that's a full sun plant. That's
All right.
We're out of the shade here.
Brings
That's
us
a full
out
sun
into
one.
the sunshine with that one,
Yeah.
the blue stars or Ansonia. What's next for you, Cindy?
So I think I'm going to go with something that's a lot smaller that's just starting to bloom in my garden, and it's called pasque flower. It's a cute little thing that has a very finely divided foliage. The flowers tend to be purple, white, or kind of this reddish, kind of burgundy red color. All parts of this plant are fuzzy. So it's just fun to touch because even the backside of the flower petals have these kind of hairs on it, which are kind of nice. It's very small, bright yellow centers, just starting to bloom in my garden. Is a native to the Midwest, and I think is this the state flower of South Dakota or something?
It might be. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hardy, really hardy. So really tough, and really like it.
I'm sorry I laughed at that, Cindy. I was like, how would I know the state flower of South Dakota? But I guess that's the sort of thing horticulturists might just know.
This is, I teach, flowers, and there's a couple of state flowers I remember because I like pasque flower.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm not sure I know. Yeah, I know the state flower of Iowa too. Okay. So just making sure of that.
Wild rose,
I
people,
like
we all know. It's okay.
Yes. I like pasque flower too because after it's done blooming, it produces this kind of fuzzy seed pod. It looks very alien-like, and it's once again covered with all of these hairs. And it does reseed, and I have a lot in my rock garden, and it kind of moves around. But it looks good even a month after blooming because you have this beautiful seed pod as well. And the foliage stays nice. It's very finely dissected, kind of dark green on top, kind of fuzzy below, and persists throughout the summer. And I usually see it kind of disperse or die back late summer, early fall.
Nice.
So, I love it.
Pasque flower, state flower of South Dakota. Pack that one away for trivia night. Aaron, what's next?
Mine is kind of a familiar one, but still a great one, and it's columbine. So there is the classic Aquilegia canadensis. It's the one that's native to our woodlands. Some folks refer to it as a honeysuckle flower. It is not a honeysuckle flower, but it does have nectar spurs in it, and I think that's where that kind of casual common name comes from. I can remember walking through the woods as a kid and people pointing out the quote-unquote honeysuckle, and it was columbine that they were actually looking at. And the native one is red and yellow, so, being at Iowa State, we love that. And
Cyclone,
yes,
all the way.
It gets fairly large when it blooms. The flowers kind of rise up above the foliage, which makes it a really nice thing to tuck in all these little places in your garden. And it recedes, so it tucks itself into all these little places in your garden. And whenever I say something recedes, some people get nervous. This one's fairly polite about how it recedes. And even if it's not where you want it to be, it's super easy to identify early in the spring. And so if it's not where you want it to be, you can just rogue it out. It's not a huge, just pull it out if it's not where you want it to be. So I love this one. Of course, there are lots of cultivars, especially of those columbines native to the western U.S., Lots of great blues and yellows and different sizes. A lot of the hybrids and cultivars that you see in the garden centers tend to be very small-statured plants. And overall, they don't tend to be super long-lived perennials, but they do kind of tuck them and reseed themselves around. So it may not be that single plant that spends forever in your garden, but you often have it in your garden somewhere for quite some time.
Columbine, not a bully in the garden by any stretch.
No,
That's
I wouldn't
great.
call it a bully.
All right, Cindy.
Cindy, I'm going to go with a collection of plants, those spring ephemerals, because I think we have to mention them. I have trillium up in my garden that's starting to bloom. I think they're amazing as a native in the woodland. Beautiful leaves that don't last all summer, so they do kind of fade away when it starts to get hot. But the flowers, stand up all straight, and I have 2 or 3 different species in my garden, and I love it because sometimes they're burgundy red, sometimes they're white. There's even kind of a purple one. So trilliums are great. I also love Dutchman's breeches. This is a flower that makes me laugh or smile every time I see it because it looks like a bleeding heart, but looks like pants hung up on a clothesline upside down. It's just kind of funny.
Little
in
stripy
how it
pants,
looks.
no less.
Yes, little stripy pants and really super fine gray-green foliage, really tiny, so you have to really pay attention when you're walking in the woods to find it. And it's just very, very clever as a spring ephemeral. So I love all of the spring ephemerals, hepatica, all of these others that you kind of
Spring
see.
Beauty is up right now.
Spring Beauty,
Yeah.
So all of these, it's like the sign that spring is actually here when I am, walking in the woods and I see all of these fun little spring ephemerals.
And you have to
and I
enjoy
try not to
them,
trip.
right? You have to enjoy
Yes,
them before they're gone because they
Right.
are ephemeral. They'll be gone soon.
Right. Yes.
Well, Cindy Haynes, professor of horticulture at Iowa State University. Aaron Steil, Iowa State University Extension horticulture specialist. For more gardening information and tips, please subscribe to our Garden Variety newsletter. Find out more at iowapublicradio.org/garden. Garden Variety is a production of Iowa Public Radio and Iowa State University Extension. It's produced by me, Aaron Steil, Caitlin Troutman, and the Iowa Public Radio talk show team. For more garden goodness, please subscribe to our Garden Variety newsletter. Just go to iowapublicradio.org/garden. I'm Charity Nebbe. See you next time.